Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast. I am back with Brent from the Legion of Substitute Podcasters, and we're going to do Starboy 2. Bronze and the beginning of the modern ages. Technically, he's in that.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess so. We probably get up to we'll probably talk about the Baxter era and the 5 years later era as well.
yeah, I'm pulling up a specific issue we're going to talk about. Um, we've got a couple. Well, let's just talk overview real quick about his his bronze age we've done, and his we've done his silver. His bronze age, he
And
doesn't
silver.
appear often. And he's not the center of a story that often. And we both said we were having problems trying to find ones to go to. We found some good ones because if you Google it, it says he has three important ones. His first appearance, Secrets of the Legion of Superheroes #1, and Legion of Superheroes 306. And they're all his origin stories being retold. Well, one's his origin story, and then the others are being retold. So what's your, I mean, I'll go
I
real
think
quick and then I'll ask you, but overall, I
yeah,
like him in this era, but his personality, he is, he has a very, it's hard to pin him down what his personality is. And then what he is written for more often and better, it's fleshed out. And I have an opinion. I got something out of it that he is somebody who has he's level-headed, he's the friend, he's always kind of supportive of he's supportive of his girlfriend, but he's a steady rock of a teammate because
yeah.
he's already hit rock bottom because he's been, he was kicked out for murder and had to come back in, and he's just a regular guy. And but what have you always thought of him? What's your take
Yeah,
on
I
him?
think that's a really good way to describe him, Ross. And look, to sort of orient listeners, we're talking about the Starboy, sort of, I guess, from the second series, who's wearing the Starfield
Yeah,
costume. So, white gloves, white boots, eventually with a beard. That's the era we're talking about. Look, I think you're right. I think I called him a handbag in this era last time we spoke, that he's um, you know,
it's not
the
wrong because he is
girl's
really
handbag.
attached to his girl.
But I think you're also right in saying he's a really loyal boyfriend. He's also absolutely smitten by her. I think almost to the point of codependency at times. I think there's a bit of that, and I think she just always sort of assumes he's going to be there, and I don't think she's always so nice to him. Actually, she can be a bit unkind, and we're going to talk a little bit about sometimes that he actually raises that with her.
Well, he does it when he leaves, I
And
think.
yeah, the tensions, right, that they have. But I would agree. There's some really nice things in this era about his friendships. Starboy's good mates, as we'd say here in Australia, with Colossal Boy and with Wildfire. So there's a really nice
I
friendship
mean, and
there.
it makes sense because they're three different versions of masculinity in a way.
That's a good way of
Colossal
putting it.
boy is the little boy striving to be the big man. And I think
Yeah,
that's why he's written that way,
and
that
Melody.
he's always trying to prove himself because, Wildstar's an ass. Wildfire, it can be, is he's self-centered.
A hothead, right?
What?
He's a hothead.
He's a hothead. Yes, but Starboy is, he's a guy, he's just a regular guy who got powers accidentally, became a hero because it's the right thing to do. He has a trauma, killing somebody and being kicked out of the Legion. But when he's all steady, he's just a steady, everyday guy who loves his girlfriend or his partner, wants to help his friends. You could see them all
Yep.
hanging out. It's just, I think that's what Levitz and Giffen and people, even Johns, because Johns writes a different version of this Tom. It's not this Tom.
Not exactly.
Um, but he is this Tom with mental health issues. He still wants to be the nice guy. He is a not, he's and I
Yeah.
like it. I like him in this here, but they don't give him as much to do as I think. I can't think of another Legionnaire who's a long-term Legionnaire who gets this little screen time.
I wonder, like, he's a really interesting character. We talked about last time how he had powers that were basically the equivalent, if not more, than Superboy originally, and how those powers faded over time, and he just ended up with his sort of, making things super heavy power, increasing the density, and I think that makes him hard to use. I think that
It's not a great power set.
It's not a fighting power. It's kind of a defensive power almost, or a, I'll bring you down, but I'm not actually going to confront you. But I reckon that matches his character in this era. I think he's not the alpha male type Legionnaire. I think he was a bit when he was first introduced. I think he was I'm going to impress the girls with my prowess.
I was a star athlete. I always see him as but he is a jock. In a way, he ends up managing a baseball team, which I love. I am a baseball fan. That is my game. I don't have a team right now because my team is moving to Vegas, and I want nothing to do with that atrocious idea. But I do. I've even followed Australian baseball because one of the teams is my grandmother's name was Adelaide. So
how interesting. How interesting.
Yeah, so,
one of my students, Ross, actually got conscripted to play baseball in the US. So
he got drafted. Yeah, we don't call it conscripted, drafted. That's not what's his name. I may have heard of him.
Charlie Collins.
All right. Did he get up to the bigs, or is he still playing?
I don't know how high up he is. I think he's doing well, but he's
young. Well, you got to spend 2 or 3 years in the minors. It's just the way it works. Because they're going to spend a lot of money. When you get to the majors, you make a lot of money. So they want you to know what you're doing. The other thing about those 3 guys you talked about is they're all loyal boyfriends. So Wildfire, they are,
and Starboy, they're dependable boyfriends. It's often the girls that let them down in a way. And obviously Wildfire's got a real impediment to that working. It's a big era where they're still shown as boyfriend and girlfriend, Dawnstar and Wildfire. The couple still exists, even though they can't physically, consummate that.
Well, because they're also outsiders when it comes to the rest of the team. They never really do blend in as much. Her power set is I'm by myself, or I'm flying outside the ship guiding you.
Yeah.
Wildfire is purely an offensive weapon. I think Colossal Boy is he is the one, because he longs for Salu, Shrinking Violet, for years.
Yep.
And then when he gets her, it's an imposter. Yeah. And I know comics supposed to show you that everything works out in the end, but that he stays with Yura once he finds out it's not her, it was a fake.
Yeah, I love you anyway.
I'll have you anyway. And I think it's because he realized that it didn't matter, because I think he found that she actually did love me, because that was not part of the plan, because she wasn't meant to, I think she was meant to spy on them, but not turn him. You know what I mean? That was a side effect of her going, as she fell in love with him.
I really like the issue where Colossal Boy takes Yura home to meet his parents.
I forgot about that one.
And I think, I think it's called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner or something like that. I think the story's called. But he's his mother's son. Like, we've got to remember she was president of the United Planets. And
I've
xenophobic. As a family, they're not xenophobic. They care about everyone. And she was a very good president for the United Planets.
Yeah.
I think we haven't seen ones that are so well-rounded since her.
No, they're always kind of like bad admirals in Star Trek. It's like the higher up you go, the more corrupt you are. But Starboy is kind of like that perfect boyfriend. He is, everybody, you were pointing out, there's an issue where he gets teased by 2 long-time friends and team members. 2 of the girls. The girls are really catty in the Legion. I've just
well, Tinya, Phantom Girl, is really catty towards him. There's lots of really funny one-liners that she sort of throws his way, particularly pointing at his obsession with Dream Girl and making fun of him for that. So I kind of like that. And Shadow Lass is always kind of hanging around, sort of egging her on a bit, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, it's deservingly so. I mean, he is so just smitten with her, like you said. It's nice to see a non-tragic love affair. I mean, they end up breaking up, but I think it's an earned story, because you have her being trapped by Universo and just she's not the best girlfriend.
Oh no, she's not, and she's
No.
quite like she's very focused on her looks. She's very focused on the team and the Legion and the mission and being leader. She's not that focused on him. Like, there's clearly a romance there, but it's him who wants to always go and canoodle with her. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, and you notice he's
It's a
not.
bit
He's never.
obsessed with her,
Yeah, he's
even physically, I'd say.
yeah, because she is this. He's never a leader, ever. He's deputy for her just because everybody doesn't. No one wants it.
Yeah.
You know. And does she even pick a leader her second time?
She picks him. I think he stays in the deputy role
He
from
stays.
memory.
Oh, so
Michael,
he.
tell me if I'm wrong, but
Well,
I'm
he
pretty
met because he leaves, and then well, he leaves it to become champion of Dantho, and then he come and that's like his last leading role. He's on the cover.
yeah.
And that's really his last hurrah. I mean, he
Yeah,
comes back
absolutely.
during the Magic War and during the death of Superboy and
Yeah.
those arcs because you can't. But he's written out right before the Superboy story.
He's one of those characters that is a bit like the Martian Manhunter in the Justice League. That he's not necessarily right up front, but he's kind of always been there. And he's kind of always been there in the background. He's dependable. You know he's going to be there. He'll step up to any mission. I think he's pretty confident in his role as a Legionnaire. Like
Yeah,
he's sure of
he's got one
himself.
of the longest tenures, even if you just count it from when he comes back in the Surprise Mysterious story arc.
Yeah.
He's there for 20 some years.
I don't know about you, but when I originally read him leaving, like I was kind of a bit gutted. I felt like he'd been hard done by, and I felt like, well, she should leave, not him. Do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
how.
well, and I don't know what their plan, we were talking before the Levitt's ABC, the way he does ABC's plots and how he moves. A is essential for a couple issues, then B moves up to A and C moves. And the Levitt's Giffen era and the Levitt's with Lytle and LaRoque, because when he leaves, it's LaRoque by then.
Yeah.
I think there was an arc that maybe they didn't finish. What would have Levitz have done if he had stayed
My
past the Magic
understanding is
War?
my understanding is Levitz wanted to leave with issue 50. And so after the conspiracy storyline that led into issue 50, that he actually wanted to leave. And what kept him around was actually Giffen coming back. And so I think some of that sort of post issue 50 to 63 to the Magic Wars was kind of a bit like a co-creation between the two of them,
So
which
he had to put some of his
see
stuff.
Giffen taking over, right, with
Yeah.
the new volume. So
Is Atmos a Legion creation or is he a.
he came out around in that book, like he was created for the Baxter series. He didn't exist
Okay,
before.
that's right. Then he was. I know where. I know, kind of know where he was. It was up toward the beginning. It was in that first couple of arcs that
Yeah.
we see him the first time.
Cool.
So
Well,
yeah, but that's.
how about we go chronologically a bit here, Ross?
Yeah, yeah.
And let's go right back to his new costume, which appears in Superboy starring the Legion. So Superboy issue before it became titled Legion, 199, and it appears on the cover. The Starfield costume, the high neck, and sort of crop top haircut.
His what we call those a high and tight.
Yeah,
It's a military cut. It's called a high and tight, where it's your hair is as long as it needs to be to stand straight on end.
Exactly.
I used to get those in college, living in a hot southern town. It was like before my hair fell out. But yeah, I like it. And I like on that one. It's a Nick Cardy on the cover, but it's It's a Cockrum on the inside. I do think it is, and for a long time until until Giffen changes his haircut, he has that high and tight, that kind of military haircut, like he is the jock, that guy. I like it, and I've always liked this costume, and I really like him when Cockrum draws it early on.
And this is the costume that it's basically the Starfield costume we know, except it's got a large star on his left breast. So
Yeah,
it's
like a Star Trek emblem or something on his
yeah,
combat. Yeah, I don't. It's really hard because it looks very drawn in, and after the fact,
it does. It does. And some of the other stars on the costume are quite distinctly five-pointed stars, whereas perhaps the more modern versions are more like a starburst. I
yeah.
guess.
Once I could do a stencil, because that's probably a stencil that's been overlaid. When you see the cover, it's probably an overlay.
Yes.
They paint it in black and then scratch out the white.
I
Uh,
think this is a great cover. This
it is a
one with
great cover. It's a
Superboy
Nick. It's
shooting
Nick
Brainiac
Hardy.
5
Yeah,
with this gun that mastered men. There's a lot of guns in this issue, and Starboy, interestingly, carries the largest gun out of all of them. He's
oh
got
my
this massive gun.
God.
Um, and yeah, Brainy and Chameleon Boy also firing massive guns. This is the issue that has Tia, the first Legion of Superheroes action figure that
Yeah,
appeared.
what because there weren't any other villains, or was it just the
Oh,
big gun was the selling
the
point?
superpowers action figure.
Yeah, yeah, the
So
Kirby.
yeah, so that was a pretty cool story. And then probably the next sort of big appearance that I'd like to talk about is in the Treasury edition in
The wedding of Lightning Lass and
yeah, and he appears in there, and the art is a little bit different, isn't it, Ross, in
well,
this one?
it's there's you he showed me an image and I knew what you were talking about when you said where it was from. And it's got him because something's changed. Remember that they Earth's more militaristic when Superboy comes for the wedding, and so he's
Right.
carrying a weapon. He's got this, it's beefcake. It is straight up Greltron beefcake. And
Yeah,
he's
he's
got
got
the
a
broad chest and
holster.
the deep cut the V cut on the costume.
Yeah, he's got the exposed chest, and the star emblem is gone off the costume now. And
Yeah. It's
the
not, it's
posing of him and Element Lad in this image, where we're sort of talking about, it's the start of chapter 4 of the Treasury. You know, he and Element Lad are both looking very buff, you would say, and
yeah,
very
it's there's
atomically
that thing
drawn.
about Grell. I love Grell, but like if you're I love Warlord. It's coming out in anything, but it's a lot of guys in thongs and girls in bikinis fighting.
I think I'm going to get that omnibus, actually, Ross. I
Have
saw
you
that
ever read
advert
it?
today. I've read the odd Warlord, but I'd love to read it just in order. And
It's
yeah, I think
really
it'd be a
pretty.
nice collection to
It
have.
is. It's incredibly pretty. I still think it's some of the best stuff he ever drew. But yeah, he draws him a little more beefcakey.
You know,
Everybody draws him a little what I would call stocky or thick, like he's broad shoulders, he's square shaped.
yep.
Um, and I think even Swan does him a little like that. Um, but yeah, that's a weird one. What's next after that one? Because
Well, I just sort of think from that era forwards until we get to Levitz, um, you know, there's not a great development of him as a character. He stays very
he's just
much
in the
in the
background when you
background. He's there with Dream Girl. He's pining after her.
they
He
need his power to do some gimmick for the fight,
makes
like
things
throw
scary every now
meteors.
and again. Yeah, and Light Lass and his power work really well together. So sometimes they're shown, you know,
They are a
counteracting each
good pair. That's something I
powers.
could they could do the the X-Men had the fastball special where Colossus throws Wolverine, which I
Yeah,
think is a great. They gave it a name, but they could have done it. She makes something super light and gets it moving fast, and then he changes its mass. It's a great.
yeah,
It is a good power set when you need it, but I don't think anybody. No one really wanted to write him because I mean, Shooter had his favorites, Bates had his favorites. I'll give Levitz a little more credit, especially on Levitz 2 when he comes
yeah,
back to it, that
yeah,
he does give it because he's go using his ABC thing, and I think that's helping. And he's rotating the cast, and that's the problem people with some Legion writers have is like with 22 people, you don't need to show all of them in every issue.
no,
You
I would
pick and
agree.
choose them and mix and match them, mix them up with people when they're not with a lot.
Yeah. And look,
Uh,
there's a few stories. Giffen comes back into the Legion. Originally comes in the Legion, does backups. Um,
Yeah, and then Broderick's
Was
doing the
Broderick.
lead and he's doing the
Yeah,
backup, and then they flop. And then with annual one, he's the, well, no, the
I
one
think it
before
is.
annual one.
Yeah, it's around there, and he comes in and draws annual one in a bit of a different style. It's a little bit close to Broderick actually. There's a bit of overlap, I'd
There's a,
say.
yeah, there's a little continuity. He starts to slowly move into,
His stuff.
um, he finds his sea legs during the Great Darkness saga.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's
hard
really, if
to
you're in the middle of the
recall it.
Great Darkness saga, it doesn't look as much like Broderick.
No.
Um, because I would say, even if you've ever seen his early Challengers in the Unknown, he drew that in the set. He drew that near the end of the original run of Challengers in the Unknown when Deadman and Swamp Thing joined the team.
Okay.
And it's more like Craig P. Russell,
Right.
but it's still Giffen. I think it's really good. And then he did Defenders, and then he came and did Legion. And his
I
Defenders is some of my favorite Defenders.
yeah.
But
I
it's,
personally love his really early Legion.
I do
Um,
too. I think it's his best. I
I
don't
love the
mind him when he gets
detail.
chunky, but
I
I
like
do.
it when he draws with Malstead as well, inking
That's,
him.
I think that's one thing that made this series so good is Malstead stayed through three or four pencilers.
Mm.
Um, and when I was reading the Starman, the early Will Payton Starman, when Stern's writing, Malstead's the inker, and it helps. Everything I've ever seen Larry Malstead touch is just chef kiss. He fixes anything. I'm a big
Yeah.
inker fan. I miss inkers because it you find the right one, and it just, because I think his Legion with Malstat is the best Legion ever looked in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
consistent. There was a consistency that him and Levitz and Giffen both had that
That
thing
was the
of,
world. It was the world building era, and that's probably the next
yeah,
thing I want to talk about. Is this annual number one from 1982, which is the Daniel Foucault Computo story. That
introducing
included,
one of my favorite Legionnaires, Invincible Kid 2, Jacques.
yeah,
He's fucking perfect from the beginning. And but I think you're right. It's that issue, and that's why I think I still own it, is because it just, Giffen and Levitz have come to some agreement with creativity, and they're lined up. Levitz had all this stuff in binders before he ever wrote an issue. He's that nerd.
he was still, from what I've heard, he was Giffen. I've heard Giffen talking about this. He was actually still directing a lot at this point, Levitz. So Levitz was very much telling him what to draw, but Giffen would then turn in something else and just go in a different direction, and Paul would go, oh my god, that's really cool, let's go with that,
Well,
you know.
see, and
So,
Levitz is one of the most underrated creative people in comics.
yeah.
I know people have problems with him, but it's like him and Jeanette Kahn ran that company very, very well.
Mm.
And Legion
He's
was a
great.
book that
The
didn't
80s
set.
particularly, wow.
Yeah. And you got to think, is like, because I see her, I watch, hear other, like I watch the Near Mint Condition to see which good omnis are coming out. And they joke about, Legions for older guys. And it's like, well, no, because it's complicated. It's not really complicated, but you could give someone the Great Darkness Saga or Annual One, and you could jump in. It's a good jumping in spot. And Livitz and Giffen do, since even though these characters have been around for 25 years at this point or more, they're still world building. And the
Yeah.
world building during this, and that this book was the number three,
This
one,
is
two, or
what I
three
want to
book.
talk about.
What
The
is,
Starboy stuff in this book is actually him and Sunboy
oh,
playing Dungeons and
playing a video
Dragons on a
game.
hologram video game. And this is the kind of world building. It's like, oh, it's not just that they have a rec room, but this is what they do there.
Mm-hmm.
And 1982, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. That
Oh,
was like, this was amazing. And Danielle Foucault takes over the Dungeons and Dragons game and imprisons the two of them in it, and brings Mordru in as the bad guy in the game. And Mordru is about to attack. And it's interesting because Giffen starts building some of the imagery that's going to appear right through, even into the 5 years later run, around the sort of like iconography of Mordru and
yeah, and I think everybody uses it
magical
after it a lot of ways. I think a lot of John's is more Drew comes from uh this stuff. And
totally.
more, And now the more Drew feel, all these villains feel more like a threat. So, but
And I
what's
like
mhm, go ahead.
the a lot of Legion fans, like we've talked about this, and we're going to go through the different eras of Legion as we sort of talk about Star Wars. But a lot of older Legion fans say, "Oh, they should go back to what it was." This is why. This is why older Legion fans have this sort of, I guess, love for this material. Is the detail that was added at this time, the
It was,
layering by Levitz of the storylines, the layering of the art by Giffen.
yeah,
This era was a sweet spot. And so, it's affectionately remembered. I cannot believe we don't have omni-buy of this. Like,
well,
it's got to happen.
they did, well, I think it is because Near Mint Condition does a poll and they give it to Marvel, and Marvel, for the most part, listen to it and listen to them and all the other thing, and they listen. So they mapped it funny, and I don't agree with it, but Legion Levitt's volume 1 would be Great Darkness, The Curse, and then the Tales of,
Which is
and
what
that,
they've just published. So they've just published The Curse.
yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think just what they may do it because some people don't want it.
Right? Don't go back. Like they republished some of the Superboy
I just
stuff.
bought the 2 new editions of Great Darkness and The
Yeah,
Curse because they're so, oh my God, they're so fucking beautiful.
Beautiful.
They are.
Beautiful.
So, but you're right. It's a sweet spot. This is what I tell fans. Is like, I like X-Men, but I don't read it religiously. But this book sold better than X-Men some months.
Yeah.
And especially the Great Darkness saga. It was selling better because Broderick and Giffen were bringing people into it. Then the Great Darkness saga. I remember because I worked at that comic shop in high school to earn comics. I remember the stacks of Legion going from like 50 to 2 cases.
Crazy.
In like 6 months, and it was all going crazy. And this is the sweet spot. And I think it's, to be honest, Tom is best served during this era, even though he could have gotten more screen time.
Yeah.
So what's next after Annual 1? Which one do you got?
So I think then I've got there's the issue, it's 296. It's now called The Legion of Superheroes, the book. And it's the issue where I think it's a fusion reactor gets sort of sabotaged by terrorists, and Cosmic Boy's parents' home is blown up.
Oh, yeah.
And his brother Paul gets injured, and it's interesting. There's a whole little discussion here that's sort of starting to bubble away that what's this sort of about leadership and who's the leader, and Dream Girl becomes leader of the Legion, and Tom starts to say, I'm losing my girlfriend to this leadership role. I want to spend more time with her. Element Lad resigns as her deputy. And then it's who's going to be the leader. And this sort of goes on a bit through this issue. So that's the sort of sign we see of him again. He gets to use his powers a little bit to make things heavy again. Just again, I guess that leadership thing is probably the thing that comes up here.
Yeah, and he ends up being leader because Ultra Boy quits. He doesn't like it because him and Element Lad are just. She's a great leader though. That's what I don't get. It's like, gosh, she won the Great Darkness saga, the Great Darkness War. She beat Darkseid. But yeah, and he has a little role in that. But see, you brought up some of the tales of that.
Yeah,
he's in that, and evaluating, or it ties into two issues.
Or the tales, actually. So in Annual 2, which is the wedding of Princess Projector and Karate Kid, a group of them end up sort of marooned on this planet that they go to. I guess it's a rando. Yeah, they're on a rando. And they're sort of marooned away from the wedding. And he has a little conversation with Dream Girl, sort of just saying, and I'll read it here. He says, she says, Legionnaires, we better get back to our own time quickly. They've been transported in time. At least before the beauty treatments I took before this trip wear off.
They're not written. No, she has some very serious Pharaoh wings. It's Dave Gibbons drawing her.
She does look like Farrah Fawcett here with her hairstyle.
I don't know. I love Dave Gibbons. He can do no wrong in my eyes, but she is a little beefy.
Okay,
She's a
good
bit
for
thick.
you.
She's a little thicker. No, I don't mean
Yeah.
that in a bad way.
No.
And I really like the way he draws him. His version of Tom reminds me of Tom Skerritt in Aliens.
Yes, actually, good.
Yeah, I
Absolutely,
mean,
exactly who he looks like here. It's a good description. So Tom says, "Stop fooling around, Nora. You make it sound like you're a beautiful but helpless mannequin." And he said, "Well, if you are helpless, how come in all the time since you've become Legion leader, you haven't asked for my help once? Do you think I don't have anything to contribute, or is our relationship falling apart so much that you don't want to talk to me?" So his sort of paranoia about their relationship sort of begins here. And she says, "Tom, that's not true. I've been meaning to offer you deputy leadership since Ultra Boy resigned yesterday." And she does eventually make him leader. Um, but that's the sort of the starting of the fraying, I think, of their relationship. He becomes deputy, and then in Legion of Superheroes 304, he goes to the Legion Academy and meets all the recruits
so
of the
here's it:
Legion.
Lamprey, Jed.
Yeah, Lamprey, Shadow Kid, Laurel Kent, Comet Queen. I think Power Boy's there as well.
That's Jed Renkin. Yeah, I call him Jed.
Yeah. So
I
and
see great design. They just
Paul
never.
Green is there too.
Yeah.
Um, and he basically ends up making a decision as deputy leader not to recruit any of these kids because he doesn't want to see another dead legionnaire. And Ross and I were talking about who the dead legionnaires might be. In this era, we'd lost Pharaoh, Lad,
Lad,
King,
Invisible Kid, Chemical King.
not
And wait a
Superboy.
minute. Has Superboy?
We'd
No,
lost a
because that's
trio
what
damsel, well, a triplicate girl body.
no, Supergirl.
No, Superboy is
Crisis
still
hasn't happened yet
not yet.
because the first issue that is post-crisis is the story where he resigns. Technically, that's what it says on Mike's Amazing World. Is that's 37 of the Baxter, 37 or 38.
Yeah. And then we get a nice page in issue 305. 305 is the one where the imposter Shrinking Violet gets found out, which turns out to be Yira, Colossal Boy's future wife. And there's one of these banter scenes between Phantom Girl and Shadow Lass and Tom. And Phantom Girl says, "All in fun, Starboy, all in fun." And Shadow Lass says, "Nothing better for the new deputy leader to do than trade put downs, Starboy." And his put downs have been about Ultra Boy. And he says, "No, everything's kind of quiet. Besides, it's not a tough job." And Phantom Girl says, "You're welcome to it. I was so glad when Ultra Boy gave it up." And then Starboy tells her, "He's running for leader again, though, isn't he? Tell you something. I hope he wins. Then Dreamy and I can get back to some serious cuddling." And then Phantom Girl puts her hand to her head and she says, "Is Dream Girl too busy being leader to pay attention to you, you poor boy?" And then he goes, "Oh, what's the use?" And the two girls laugh as he walks off. So, lots of this sort of wanting Dream Girl to not be leader so that he can spend more time with her. And I think, look, there is a bit of codependency here. I think he needs her sometimes more than she needs him. I don't think she doesn't always seek his advice. She does sometimes, but it's kind of when she wants to. I feel like Dream Girl does things on her terms,
Yeah,
whereas
I've
he
never really
about the
thought if it was
couple.
her. So do you like for her? I think it sometimes is a precognition because it's her superpower
Ah,
set. I don't know who did it, but someone did it where one she was like, "I've already seen the fight. Why? How she's good at hand-to-hand combat?" And they're like, "Why?" And she's like, "I saw the fight already.
yeah.
I know what he's going to do, so I can counter it." But yeah, well, I mean, how you say it is like when she comes and you know they latch onto each other when they're both kicked out. She joins and then leaves.
She
Doesn't she
does.
join in her first appearance and then
Well, they're
she,
both in the subs when he leaves. He doesn't he leave
yeah,
to the
that's when
sub.
she joins the subs is when he leaves. She consoles him and they become members of the subs
That's
and then they
right.
come back together. So, but she
Yeah.
is, do you think there's a a big change in her and them when Levitz is writing it, or is it just a little more fine-tuned?
She certainly has I guess a focus on her leadership role becomes really important to her. I think, she was very much portrayed as the sex object in her very early appearances.
Yeah, she was definitely that.
There's a bit of I want to prove myself. I'm actually really intelligent. I know stuff. I'm Brainiac 5 level, in this Legion. Like, you need to respect me. And even Brainy respects her to a degree.
Well,
Like,
and they use that some and
believe in the
people.
mumbo jumbo, but
Yeah.
he does listen to her.
Well, I also get the thing that when Wade takes that she is so powerful in the 3 boot and puts them together, it's not the healthiest relationship.
No.
But she is. It's kind of like that thing with I'm an Avengers fan when they made the Wasp leader of the Avengers. It's like, oh, this makes sense. And that she and Stern wrote it, and she was, oh, they're all like going, why? She's like, because I've been doing this as long as all of you. I was there on day one. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And even Cap, who said she should do it, is like, he's like, I know you can do it. I'm a perfect leader. I'm always the leader. I know you're good. And I think that's what's with her is you don't need my power set to be a good leader. You just need me. And
This is
because
an
it
era
really has
where
nothing to do with her power set.
we had lots of female leaders in books too in this era, right? Wasn't Donna Troy also leader of the
Yeah, when
Titans?
Dick left, yeah. Monica
Yeah.
Rambeau became when
Yeah.
my Captain Marvel became leader of the Avengers. It made sense. She was a cop,
Yeah. And I think his power is part of the reason he's a handbag. Like he just isn't as powerful as her. She changes the course of the history of the Legion through her prophecy. Like
multiple times. That's what
multiple
gets,
times.
yeah. What saves him from, she helps him not get convicted. She helped in his trial because
Yeah.
she's like, he didn't do it on purpose. It was just luck. Because that's like when well, we're about to get to 306, but
I
yeah,
was about to say that's a good segue there,
it
Ross.
is a good segue because he retells that story. And it's so beautifully told because it's him and
Unluckiest leader there.
Wildfire with Giffen doing the art, and the flashbacks all by Swan. And Dave Hunt's inking it. It's not Malstad at all. I think it's Dave Hunt, am I right?
The Malstead's inking. Yep.
Okay.
With
Okay.
Swan penciling. Yep.
Okay. So
A bit of Giffen and a bit of Swan.
it's a real good. Is he the unluckiest Legionnaire? No, you're not dead. No, there 3 of your
You
friends
did
are
die.
dead.
Yeah.
But
that whole connection to the Luck Lords that we talked about last time, that there is
yeah,
that connection. And so, he puts it down to, that's where my bad luck came from, sort of thing. But we're going to talk a bit more about 306, and probably listeners, if you want to go and find out more about Starboy, I think the core Starboy, this is probably the best book to pick up.
yeah, because you get to see him as he is at the
Silver
end of his
and
career, and
bronze.
no, I agree. It's one that these spotlight issues is what they called them back then, are excellent because like about 4 months earlier there's one for Cosmic Boy, and it's one of the best ones to learn Cosmic Boy's history, and it's a history lesson. Levitz and Giffen knew that not everybody knew the mythos, so they would go, let's pick somebody, and they would do random people, and I think they picked Starboy because of Dream Girl becoming leader and that he was going to come to the forefront, and they made the decision to make him deputy.
Yeah.
Let's give that reason to bring him to the front because his skill set doesn't lead, we're not using him because we don't need his power set.
It does remind me a little bit though, Ross, of the one of the former presidents of Argentina. So Kitchener was president of Argentina, and he made his wife his vice president. And then he died of cancer, and she became president. And let's just say it was a little bit too. It was an interesting era for Argentina.
What's it? The House of Cards that the Spacey and Robin Wright were in. That she becomes his vice president. One, that's illegal. Our
Yeah.
Constitution, you can't. The president and vice president cannot be from the same state.
Well, that's very interesting because this
So, oops, pulled my
the
earbuds out.
wife,
But yeah, I
in
get what you're
Argentina,
saying, but I never understood.
something you should all be worried about, Ross, in your country is the Argentine constitution is very similar to yours, actually. And
Yeah.
she ran her 2 terms as president and then tried to change the constitution to say you could have as many terms as you were elected for.
Yeah, well, ours is harder to change. It
Mm.
takes 2/3 of the states to vote
Yep.
for a new amendment.
She tried. That's exactly what she tried, and she
Yeah,
was
same.
didn't happen. She
I don't know.
tried.
I'm just hoping at the midterms there's a purge of dumb shits.
Interesting. So, how do we want to handle this issue, Ross? Do
What,
we
3 or
want to
6?
sort of talk through it, or
Hold on a
how do
second.
you want to
I got an alarm going off to say pain medication, folks. I've still got a broken foot.
You better do that. So maybe if I
No,
just
I'm
sort of
good. No, I've already
intro-
took
You
it.
good? Great.
So 3 or 6. Let me pull it up on my screen too.
So we've got an amazing cover. Ross has got this as his background as we're talking. So the cover's by Giffen and Malstead, and it's got Starboy in his Starfield costume. This is the bearded Starboy. The Legion logo has a Starfield in it with some sort of pink shadowing. And he's sitting up above Earth and the what was the name of the sphere they had around the Earth? The sort of protective sphere.
Oh God, that plastic bubble.
Name, didn't it?
The transparent neutron.
Neutron. Yeah. Yeah. It was sort of protecting the planet from external things like meteorites or whatever. So
Doesn't it tie into it also ties into the Universo project too, doesn't it?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Earth off. He's clearly representing the future on this cover. I think anyone who knew anything about Legion seeing this on the shelf would have known exactly what this book was about. That you were looking at.
Now I'm looking at it on the pad that has all the yellow starfield behind him, like the stars are inside the lettering of the logo.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous.
Swooshes even. Yeah, it's great. It's a beautiful cover. And I think the splash page is really cool too. It's got Wildfire sitting talking to Tom. Tom's looking very relaxed. They're both having a drink, or Tom is probably. And he's wearing his old Starboy costume from the Silver Age.
I have a purple t-shirt with a white star on it that I bought from Redbubble. So I have that t-shirt in a way.
Yeah, I think bearded shirts sell this one as well. And it's interesting, the sleeves of the shirt are sort of torn. I don't know if you noticed that. That rough on the edges.
Okay. He's cut up an old uniform. He's turned into short sleeves.
I reckon he has. And we're talking in the background, we've got I guess a vertical monitor that's got Legion mission monitor board symbols on it, and their votes are coming in. The first vote is from Starboy, and he's voted for Ultra Boy because he doesn't want Dreamgirl to be leader. And the second vote is from Wildfire, and he's voted for Dreamgirl. So interesting, they're sitting there as 2 friends, but they've voted in different directions. They're talking about casting the votes, and they've got 1 each. So down the bottom, we've got the tally: Dreamgirl 1, Ultra Boy 1. And this issue talks through the election, basically. So we sort of get the election happening in the background of who's voting for who. And so basically they're having a chat, and Starboy starts to recount his origin. Do you want to talk about the Kurt Swan pages?
Yeah, I like it. And I like on the first page, which is like page 3, is the first panel is by Kurt Keith. And then the rest, once they go into the background, and it's bookmarked like that at the end of page 4, where he tells the story. But one, it's just gorgeous Kurt Swan Legion. It was always good when he would come back and do a few pages. And you get to see, and I mean, George Papp created him. That was his first stars, was Papp, which is, I find, it's also one of my favorite Papp issues too. But you get to see his origin on the the more refined version of his origin, because his origin was kind of piecemeal put together when they needed to change it to give him a different power set, where he's
Yep.
on the floating observatory and he's somehow being born in space gives him the ability to change the mass of things, or the weight of them.
Yeah, and he does it to the observatory itself, which starts to plummet to the ground.
Yeah, smashes into the ocean and they have to fly off. And he talks about it, and it's like, I do like it out. I do like that he talks about the doctors. The doctors picked me apart and figured out how my powers worked. One guy made me a research study for his thesis, how he's a guinea pig as a
Yeah.
kid. And then we get back to them just talking about the election. It took them that long. Wildfire, this is what I'm not sure, is it they kept doing it because they enjoyed it, he says.
Yeah, the scientists. Yeah, he was sort of categorized as a freak. Um, these Xanthu doctors. So
Yeah. And then we go back to the flashback and they take his initial origin and cut it into, because that's his original origin, isn't it? Going through the comet.
yeah, and they're sort of saying he's run away from these doctors because they saw him as a
Yeah,
freak.
which is
So
added
he's going to
here.
just take off, right? Yeah, this is from
Yeah.
this story, right?
Yeah.
He goes through the tail of the comet, and he's got invulnerability suddenly. He joins the Legion, and then we get sort of that Silver Age sort of version with the purple,
Yeah.
the yellow gloves and yellow star.
Yeah. I do love that costume. It is
And
still a good
then
costume.
we switch back to the election. So some more votes come in. Element Lad votes for Ultra Boy. Chameleon votes for Element Lad. And then Brainiac 5 votes for Element Lad. Colossal Boy votes for Ultra Boy. And this is looking good. Dreamgirl's not getting many votes here. And Shrinking Violet votes for Element Lad. And suddenly Element Lad and Ultra Boy are winning the election. And Tom says, and I love the line here, she'll still win. This won't work out for me. Nothing ever does, not even joining the Legion. This unluckiest Legionnaire concept. So he joins as their 13th member, and he gets the luck you'd expect, he says. He got the job because he was the Legion's most powerful member, and he did. He had more powers than Superboy. That was told, back in that original story. He was stronger right back when Lana Lang was in the story, that he met. He had more power.
So with this flashback to, it's been so long since I've read this all the way through. I kind of sped read it earlier today.
Yeah, the Takron Galtos scene.
Yeah. How is this?
Is this when they were locked up? Like when the Legionnaires were put in prison? Is that right?
I think it is, because all the cops are being made to be prisoners.
Yeah, I don't think it's clear where he is in this scene.
Yeah, but it leads to him crashing.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, this is new stuff.
This on a one-man mission. That's right. And he
yeah.
Yeah,
and he gets this. I think this is kind of new. This is a new story inserted, and he gets hurt
to rescue the guards. Yeah.
Rescue
the science police. And then we cross back to the election. So we're back in the far future, and some more votes come in, and Dreamgirl ends up on 4, Element Lad on 3, and Ultra Boy on 4. And he's going, why didn't they vote for Ultra Boy instead? And Wildfire says, anyone ever tell you you're a pessimist, kid? He says, try realist, Wildfire. You were never in love with a girl who could predict your every action, were you? Trust me, no one ever wins anything Neuronal wants. So he really is this submissive boyfriend. There was a submissive nature to him in some ways.
And then we get to see the beginning of that with the next flashback, which is the origin of, or not the origin of, but the first appearance of Dreamgirl.
Yeah. And look, and Wildfire's got a good line there just before that happens. He says, "At least she loves you, and you're together, right?" So it's sort of like, the unreciprocated love of Dawnstar, sort of for poor Wildfire. And yeah, he fights this prison scene and then gets injured as buildings fall down on him, and he's literally wrapped from head to toe in bandages.
Yeah, I love that. I do love that.
Quite funny with his arms and legs splayed out. You thought you were bad with your broken
But
foot there.
yeah,
He's got every bone in his body broken here, I think.
mm-hmm. But I like it when we see her origin, and she joins her one story because she saw them all die in an explosion. You find out later it's all mannequins. But when she's leaving, it's like, Starboy's out there going, Dream Girl, I'll never forget you. Will you come back someday? Maybe if I perfect my time sight powers further. And then we cut to him losing where he hits his lowest point.
Yep.
Where he accidentally kills somebody.
Yeah, Ken's Nor. Yeah. Who was trying to get Dream Girl away from him.
Yeah, it was. Oh, that's what I forgot.
Yeah, trying to take his girlfriend. And yeah, accidentally shoots him. Dream Girl says she sees it all. They both go off and join the subs. Yeah, interestingly, here, I think the dialogue boxes around the wrong way, actually. But Wildfire says, "I didn't know you guys were in the subs together." Oh, yeah, that's when we got really close. And actually, that is an error in the comic there. The word balloons are pointing to the wrong characters.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, Wildfire says, "Nothing like being on the same team." And I think sometimes for Wildfire, that's all he's getting with Dawnstar. Is they just get to be on the same team. And he's
Yeah, they're always together because they both can fly in space without assistance.
It's funny. I have a girlfriend, and when I say girlfriend, I mean a girl who's a friend, and we're never going to date. But I think sometimes she likes having me around, like a boyfriend. But it's kind of like
before I got married, I had female friends. I was like, you just need me to be your boyfriend on certain occasions.
Yeah, I could be her +1 for events.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And then we get to see that the replay of my favorite, probably one of my favorites, Surprise Mysterious, where they come back.
Great sub scenes in there too, which is terrific.
Yeah, I do like that sub because I forget they were subs, and they were subs for a while, for a couple of years.
Yeah, and really old Legion fans, and I'm not that old, but yeah, would say they got so excited when they saw them coming back. It's Alan who records with us on the Legion Substitute Podcasters. His brother was excited. His older brother, seeing them come back into the Legion, he remembered them leaving and being.
Oh my God!
So and this was the era. We were talking about this in relation to Shooter. Shooter was a kid when he started writing the Legion. He was a teenager. And he kind of he was collecting these comics, and the people who were publishing them thought kids were reading them and throwing them away.
No, it's kind of like
following the storylines, and he brought in that continuity and said, no, actually these stories need to build. It's not just a matter of one and dones and recycling Starboy. Starboy is a good example of recycling the same character, giving him a different name but the same story.
It's really amazing when you're reading Silver Age Legion, especially in order. You're reading, and they're very, very disposable stories, and they're like the same 5 plots over and over and over again. And they're not meant to read. Like when you're doing a reread, it's like it's frustrating because it's very similar. But once this 14-year-old kid gets there, you're like, what? Wait a minute. He's read some Marvel, probably. They're starting to find the things. Because Marvel finds it. I've been rereading. I'm reading FF from #1 for the first time, getting all the Kirby stuff. You can see where they're going. Oh, my readership is not 6 and 7; it's 10 to 15. Oh no, it's 15 to 20. You can see those shifts in Stan and Jack's work, and you can see it when Shooter comes in. And I think Starboy and Dream Girl really. What we know of them now comes from that, is him bringing them back. And then he uses them. Starboy appears in a few stories. He's in the Luck Lord, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Um
The Legionnaire who killed all that stuff.
yeah. So I mean Shooter liked using him.
He did. He did. I just have to say, this issue, having Giffen and Swan, and we get it again when we get the Legion 300 issue, but
Where everybody
it's
comes
like
back to Jocelyn.
where everyone comes back and draws. But I just love seeing classic Legion in the same book with modern Legion. We've got this absolute world-building future of Giffen on one side, and then on the other side, we've got that classic 1960s Legion look from Swan. It's a beautiful book. I think this is a book to own if you're going to own a few Legion
Yeah,
books.
it's one of those. It's like it's one of my favorite covers of all time.
Yeah. It reminds me of the digest too a little bit, Ross. Like you often got the sort of the reprinting of classic Legion stories with some bookends done by a modern artist. Like
Oh
one of my
yeah, I used to
ones.
like those. And I had a roommate who had never read Legion, and I had all those digests when they were printing them with the stories in chronological in
Yeah,
publication order. So I just said, read these, because I had them on a shelf. He goes, "Don't you have these in issues?" And I got them in probably some in 4 or 5 places. But he found a lot. He's kind of like me. He saw it triggered whatever his OCD or ADHD triggered it in his brain, and he needed to read everything. And I said, "Well, they're too long boxes. Go put them in your room."
yeah,
He read it up through Giffen,
yeah. And I
as best as he could.
really, this is where Starboy got the beard. Actually, like I think Perez drawing Starboy in sort of his Legion
He
profile
did.
thing.
I think it's on one of those postcards. Or
Yeah,
when he did a 2-page spread of
did
them in
covers. He
uniforms
did covers, and then there's a little section in one of those digests. I can't remember which
where it
one, where he
shows all the people.
does
He's
a couple of
just like
characters
Cockrum
on
that did.
stage.
Yeah, I think it's him. I do think it's him. I think Giffen really leans into it.
Yeah,
It becomes his look forever. That version.
absolutely.
Because none of the other versions after him ever become an adult.
Yep.
Because Jay, folks, I was listening to Long Live the Legion with Jay and Jimbo, and they were talking about how when Cochran and Perez, not Cochran and Grell got there, they aged up, especially Grell. They're
And
like 19.
Starboy does have that. He certainly looks older than a lot of the Legionnaires in this era. In this sort of Baxter sort of period that we're heading into, he's kind of like the older, serious, sensible sort of character too. And I think the beard somewhat lends to that, but I think his personality does too. A bit
Yeah,
as is perhaps, Shady and Monel. They come across, and obviously Lightning Lad and Satin Girl and Cos, like they sort of got that
there
similar.
are older Legionnaires, especially when you get to the later recruitments that they're giving us younger, you know, Telos and Quizlet, who are you don't know how to measure their age, but they're just kids.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Paul, Rock's brother, when he becomes Magnetic Lad, is it Magnetic Lad?
Magnetic Kid.
Magnetic Kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
And
this is one of those issues with like annual one. You can't think of any others there probably are other ones, but right off the top of my head, these two always jump to the top of my head. Starboy's not my favorite. I do like him a great deal, and um, I've always loved this issue. Just always have.
yeah, it is a great issue, and it finishes beautifully because the final election results come in, and Dreamgirl doesn't win. She comes second, and she becomes Element Lad's deputy. So he hasn't quite got what he wanted. She doesn't leave the leadership roles altogether, but she downgrades to that role. So worth checking out 306 listeners. It's a great book. In 308, we get a little bit more Starboy in there. This is Giffen's, not Giffen, Levitz's C plots, right? So we're just getting snippets of Tom from here on. That
Yeah.
306 was the big focus issue. Um, she's away on a mission. He's talking about her term being up as leader. and she's saying, and he's talking to Wildfire again, and he's saying she'll be back from Kundia soon. Don't worry. It was an easy mission, and he says she'll be home soon. Element Lad will be leader. You can have some fun. And then Starboy says, Element Lad doesn't even believe he was elected. He thought I was kidding. And Wildfire says, that's funny. The guy gets voted in on a write-in and he won't even believe it. And that kind of turns out to be a bit prophetic, because I think she pretty quickly becomes leader again, which is a bit of a problem for our friend Tom. And I think she's a really good leader. I think you were sort of saying how much you loved her as a character in this Levitz era, but I think she's a great leader.
She is a great leader. It makes perfect sense that the precog would have some. They're asking her, have you seen prophecies of it? And she goes, don't worry about it. They're not, she doesn't rely on them. You know what I mean? As a leader, she's like, during the Great Darkness Saga, there's some things that she's seen, but she's not going to tell them because she doesn't know, because she'll admit, I'm just seeing glimpses. Yeah. I don't know the context, like in her own origin story, you know what I mean? Where she sees them all die and you find out, oh, those are dummies. But I think she's a great leader.
Yeah, there's some nice foreshadowing. We're in the Tales of the Legion of Superheroes era now, which is the same run. The numbering's the same as it always was.
Yeah, it's the
book has started in parallel, but with a time jump. So
yeah.
The back book is ahead in time. We get a little scene with all the Legionnaires sitting around, I guess, the boardroom, and Dreamgirl says, we need some more members, and Starboy comes back again and says, this is like 14 issues later. No, the new kids are not ready. We can't trash our standards. We can't lose their lives. And Cosmic Boy disagrees with him and says, actually, Dreamgirl's right. We have to sort of wonder if any of us would have passed the test that the standard you're wanting to put on these kids. We wouldn't have passed them when we applied to be Legionnaires. And so can we please consider that next time we have an applicant? And this is a bit of foreshadowing. Levitz is playing a very long game because
we're going to get,
brother. It's his own brother who's going to die right at the end of the Baxter era. So Cosmic Boy is kind of, and I hadn't realized that until I read that again today, but it's like, he's playing a long game. This is,
he is, because it's got to
bring Opal in and he's going to die. And wow, amazing. We then get a nice little cameo in the Magpie Complex issue, which is Tales 320. And it's a nice one where we get an intruder stealing something from the Legion headquarters, and Dreamy and Starboy take him down. And we see both their powers sort of in action, including her fighting him, knowing exactly where he's going to sort of aim, and she just takes him down with a kick to the face, which we would say take a drink on our podcast if it's a kick to the head, because there's a lot of kicks to the head in Legion. So that sort of rounds out the Tales era, and we're just going to sort of talk about the Baxter era. We're not going to go into as much.
There's not a lot for him to do. They write him out because because of the Universo project, Atomos, how do they pronounce Atmos, and he loses Dreamy to him, and he ends up having to become the champion of his home world. So he's out, and then he comes back 2 issues later anyway, because it's the death of Superboy, and then he comes back for the Magic War, but he leaves.
Yeah, he pretty much leaves. He's feeling absolutely crushed by Dreamgirl seeing this other guy who's also from Xanthu.
Yeah.
So one of his own sort of,
and dumb as a rock.
Yeah, but really hot. And and I think that was really interesting because she'd always been this sort of exploited physically character, always drawn in a pose. Like some of the pictures of Dreamgirl are very misogynistic, but she's that sort of version you were saying with Gibbons was much more human in lots of ways, whereas she's often drawn quite sexualized. And this time the boyfriend Atmos is quite sexualized, and
Yeah, he's
got the
beefcake.
one with the weird costume that's missing his sort of underarms, like you can see.
Yeah,
straight
like parts of him are invisible. I don't.
Yeah, it's
a
a
weird
cool,
design. I never really understood
look,
it.
but it's weird too. So yeah, so he leaves absolutely crushed and goes back to be Xanthu's hero. And we don't see him for most of the 5 years later run. So the Legion book continues in
He only appears in 3. He's
3.
It's issue 3, and he's
Yeah.
He's married,
Yeah.
and he runs a baseball team on
But he does
Xantho.
come back. He does come back in I think it's the anniversary issue. He comes back, and we actually get to see them re-meeting. And Dreamgirl at this point, interestingly, based on your earlier comment, has become quite voluptuous, let's say, in her figure.
Rubenesque.
Yeah. And but she's still the same vampy character. Like, she's still vamping it up. She's got these 2 toy boys sort of tagging along with her.
She's a Kardashian.
She's the cougar now.
She's
totally cougar. And whereas Tom has settled down with this very sensible woman. He's running a baseball team. He loves his job. And
his wife's his boss.
He's just happy.
I think she owns the team.
Yeah, but he's content. He just wanted a simple life where he could love his partner and do the things he loved in life. And there's no way he's rejoining the Legion. Like, he shows zero interest in rejoining the Legion, even though they've come to watch his baseball team. And it's like, he's made his peace with just being himself. And I really like that, because I was kind of hurt when he left the Legion. I was kind of like, why does he have to leave? He's the steady one.
Yeah.
I think Dreamgirl should have left. And but no, it's Tom who leaves, and we don't see much more of him. He appears very briefly. And interestingly, he appears in do you remember the SW6 Legion, who we won't talk a heap about because they don't stick around for very long, but there's a storyline in 5 years later that younger versions of the Legionnaires are found in these sort of cryo tubes.
Yeah.
And they're called the SW6 Legion. And there's a whole thing around Giffen wanted them to be the Legion, and the older ones were actually clones. And anyway, editorial said no,
because it was a bad idea. I think if they say that 40 years, 30 years, they were the wrong people. It's kind of rough.
Yeah. And but interestingly, Starboy isn't amongst them.
Because it's all members that were before. Dreamgirl's not one either.
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of them that are not there. And what ends up happening in 0 Hour is they reveal that they were actually a time-displaced version of the Legion, and the Time Trapper has sliced off at some point, has parted the timeline and imprisoned all these young ones in these chambers, and the other ones continued to age. And so they were sort of like time chambers. And anyway, obviously some of the later Legionnaires are not there, including Starboy and Dreamgirl. And then through 0 Hour, there's these sort of time shifts, and Starboy appears finally, as does Dreamgirl. And pretty much they appear just to have a final scene in the Legion book, in the 5 year later book, where the young and the old version of all the Legionnaires come together and join hands and basically disappear into whiteness, ending up with the 3 founders, Lightning Lad, Cosmic Boy, and Saturn Girl, who join hands on this floating rock in space and say, "Long live the Legion," and it all fades to white, with the 0 Hour sort of resetting the universe. And then we come back for the reboot. And so Tom makes a very, very brief appearances in 5 year later, and but he does play a role in the reboot. So Ross, maybe next time I come talk a bit about reboot. Tom,
I need to do a bunch of homework because I haven't read that stuff in years.
He doesn't have a massive role, but he's the one that Jack Knight meets. and it's not the one we've been talking about, but he's based on the one we've been talking about, which is why we've gone right back to the beginning, because
Yeah.
he's got a lot of Silver Age characteristics, actually, this version. And
I do like his version. I do. It's because some of them change, like the Element Lad Alchemist. It's a good name. It's a good name. But he's not Jan. He's not leadership. He's just kind of he's a tragic character because of the way he, everybody's the last survivor thing. But Tom is, I think I like the Star Boy in the reboot. I don't think he's used as well or as much, but he's true. He's very true to this one. He's very similar.
He is similar. They don't change too much about him.
Yeah.
And we're going to see him in Starman issue 50. And I'd love to join you for that one as well, Ross, when we get there.
We'll get there. I'm recording one tomorrow. I'm doing I forget what number it is. My brain is mush. But Kirby's coming on. We're going to do it's the Shade and Matt checking off the last of his boxes to redeem himself. Get bad people who know bad things about him out of the way. And Shade takes care of that, and him going to somebody who had reformed like he wants to reform and said, as long as you keep my secret. He goes, no, I'll help you. If that's going to help you reform like I have and be happy like I am, I'll help you out, Matt. It's a great story. Nice. It's great.
So, and all this is going to come together as Starman builds. I love the way Starman builds. Starboy plays a role. Matt plays a role. It's all going to come together.
We're getting to a point where I've only reread it maybe once or twice.
Wow.
So yeah, Greg Guggenall, and I'm looking forward to this space. That's one of my favorite things because I'm real big on his journey.
It's the hero's quest, isn't it? The space bit.
It is so good. It is so good. All right. Well, we can wrap this up. It was fun talking about this. He is an underused character in this year. That's all I got to say. But there are some real good highlights, especially in the Levitz Giffen era. I think they understand him, and they get forced to use him because the way the elections used to work, we actually got to vote. And like, they did not pick Dreamy. The fans did. It was a big surprise. But it led to some great stuff. So
it did indeed. Well, thanks Ross. It's been great joining you again. I'm looking forward to Starboy 3 and Starman 50.
Yeah. Well, I'm with this one, I'm way ahead. So I've got some just got to do a TED episode coming up to do some catch up, but this will go out in probably about a month from when we record it. And yeah, definitely want you to come back and do that. We'll do reboot and then 3boot. I do want to cover the Johns.
Well, we'll have to, because there's a few things. It gets convoluted. So from here, this is the simple bit, listeners. But from here, the Legion gets complicated.
Oh my God!
Starboy gets complicated.
I've never read the retro boot all the way through. I have it. I just never have read it. It was really kind of up and down. And does he play a part in that?
Yeah, but I'm not going to spoil it.
All right, so that'll be fresh in my head.
Something you need to know. That'll have to come at some point. But there's also Kingdom Come. And so that's also.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I also want to kind of cover him in. I don't know if you watched it, the JLA cartoon he was in.
Yep.
He was really well portrayed in that. It was nice. I liked it. So
fantastic.
All right, folks, that'll be it. And hey, as always, check out the Legion of Substitute podcast. I jump in and out when I can't have time. I have too many things to do. I don't get to listen to as many podcasts I used to. Please keep checking out Stop, Let's Team Up and Gallifrey's Most Wanted for me. And as always, be safe, be smart, please be kind to one another. It's a mixed up, crazy world. And read some comics, read some Legion, read some Starboy stories.